morning, everyone. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. I'm just back from the American Academy of Anti-Aging Conference, which was absolutely amazing. There was 1 million square feet of exhibit space, 1,000 exhibitors, and I think almost 10,000 attendees, both mostly medical practitioners, but even people like me from the media were there. So my guest today, I actually met at a conference last September, I think it was, in Chicago. His name is Dr. Jason Pencek. I've been calling him Pencek, so he just corrected me. But anyway, good morning, Jason. I'm so happy to have you with us today. Can you
Hello,
hear?
how are you today, Michelle?
I'm just doing great, thanks to you. I'm using a lot of the products that I get from you, so we'll talk about that during the show today.
Awesome.
But you were at A4M too, right?
I was the biggest. This was the biggest year of the conference. Remember, we have to think. I've been going for 9 years to A4Ms and to aging conferences, and this year in the main lecture hall was the first time I've had standing room only. I could not sit down if I came late. Let me tell you, I think the big push is peptide medicine. I know we're
Correct.
talking about that today, but the
Correct.
reason why everyone is so gung ho about, doing this, being a form is because, again, peptides have really just pushed that level to the next thing. We got GLP-1s came out and everyone was like, GLP-1s. Now
Right.
if I'm injecting myself with one thing, I
Right.
guess I can inject myself with a few other things.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where the stigma of peptides has gone from. I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years, and it's gone from this, very taboo situation to, oh my gosh, what is a peptide? Why are we using it? And then what else can we use to improve our health? So this was the biggest conference I have
Yeah.
ever seen anti-medicine. Have you been going for years as well?
Yeah. I actually live even longer than you. I met
Oh
Dr.
wow,
Goldman and Dr. Klatz,
yeah, I know
I
both of them.
think 20 years ago, and uh, Jim Stockson, Dr. Stockson from Chicago, team
Hmm.
doctors. Do you know them, the team doctors?
I don't. I
They're
don't.
somebody that you should get to know, James.
Okay.
I think he's going to be retiring soon. He's very young, but he's still, worked so hard his whole life. I think he's ready. His father was a chiropractor, and he's a
Okay.
chiropractor, and he takes care of a lot of celebrities. He goes
Okay.
to a lot of the music conferences, goes backstage. His big one was the Wiggles. Do you remember the Wiggles?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Anthony. Anthony had a lot of issues, and James helped him a lot. So probably saved his life because he could have gotten into addictive stuff. So, but anyway, James was good. Is Bob Goldman's chiropractor?
Okay.
So through that connection, and I only met James just serendipitously, like I met you at
Okay.
the conference, and then
Hmm.
we became best of buddies, and
Hmm.
um, so then I started going, but I took off about, I think, 10 years in between the 20 years because I was living in Hawaii or living in Aspen, and
That sounds really amazing.
real estate development was taking all consuming. And so but then I came back, like in the last 5 years, I've gone again.
Hmm.
And as you know, my podcast is, well, I don't know if you know, but it's 7 years old. So ever since
Yeah.
I became a media person, I again thought, well, I've got to go to A4M. That's like the
Yeah.
granddaddy of the longevity educational conferences. So
Yeah.
I agree with you that the big hot topic everywhere you go is peptides. I mean, there were a lot
Yeah.
of other exhibitors, but
Yes. But
even
what drew
those
people
people,
in, yeah, I think whatever drew in though was, right, we even watched I go to the Peptide World Conference from Seeds, Dr. Seeds, and I would say
yeah,
just year over year, everything has gotten bigger and bigger. And I think people coming to A4M this year thought there'd be more peptides. I think people that showed up were expecting more peptide lectures. They didn't
exactly.
get as much as I think they thought they would, but the intention was, I mean, I think we been going there for as long, for longer than me, but even in the last 5 years, that main lecture hall was, very empty compared to recently where it was completely massive and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And then this year again was, you walk in the room and you're like, where have you people been for the last
I
five, 10
know.
years? No one's been here. Oh, you heard peptides exist? Oh, okay. Now everyone's here.
Well, and
So
also they said, I heard there was like 9,000 plus people there. So,
yeah,
you
they sold
know,
out totally.
Yeah, so they're going to have a bigger conference location next year if this keeps up, because
Yeah.
standing room only is not going to work. You know, people
Yeah.
want to sit down and listen to a lecture and take notes and so forth. So, yeah, but and the exhibitors have gotten better too. They're much more credible. In the past, there've been some maybe questionable ones, but this year, I mean, honestly, everybody was, just taken away by the quality.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, I was just so impressed with exhibitors from year to year. I mean, there were some things I thought were a little more, little maybe not real,
Yeah,
compared to other years. I've spent many, obviously, you've gone to this for years, and you have seen that some of these, people coming there, there's some more legitimate products and some less legitimate products. And this is the
yeah,
first year I really came in, walked through, and said there's some not legitimate products here. They're just throwing everything and hoping something sticks because they have so many people viewing them. And this was, I want to say, 25% bigger than last year. They had 900 exhibitors this year,
yeah.
which was massive,
I
massive,
know.
massive, massive, massive.
So, and I would say maybe 20% of those 900 were people that I knew from being on my podcast. So that's exciting in itself. It was 7 years of interviewing, over a 12-month period for 7 years. You have a few people on your guest list. So
Yeah,
it's fun to go around and see, those exhibitors that are part of your own portfolio, and to get updated on what they're doing. So, yeah.
yeah,
So, well, let's talk about you.
yeah,
So, okay. So you and I met at Biohackers World, which, are you going
correct.
to go to the one in LA?
They haven't formally asked me yet, but they keep asking me to go to everyone I go to, so I'm sure I'll be there. I
Okay.
believe is that in April, May,
Yeah, it's in March, I think.
March?
The
Yeah,
last week of March at I think it's the Hilton in downtown LA. But yeah, so I'm going to go. They just invited me, so I'll
great.
be there. So we'll see each other. I of course didn't see you at A4M, but I thought I was
It was
bumping into
so
a lot of.
big. There was no way we'd run into
I
each other, Michelle. It
know,
was massive.
I know. So okay, so tell us why you are who you are. What is it that
Okay.
has motivated you to be, basically, you are like a chiropractor, a nurse practitioner, chiropractor.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, just give us a little bit of the journey that got you here.
Yeah, of course. Um, I became a nurse many years ago, 15 years ago, and I wanted to work with patients more. I needed more patient care. Um, I needed to have a little more control of care, and the nursing didn't allow me to do that. So I
Mm-hmm.
ended up deciding I'm going to go back to chiropractic school. I didn't know what chiropractors had done, had never met one in my life, didn't know what happened other than I knew they worked with their hands. Chiro is working with your hands, chiropractic, so hand work. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I can use my hands and treat everyone. And quickly I realized that's not going to work. I can't do all the stuff I want to do. I went to my first IV seminar while I was in chiropractic school with a girl I was dating. She said, you got to go to the seminar, you got to learn IVs. And I went to IV seminar after IV seminar. I said, okay, I can't do this. How do I get access? So what ended up happening was I started nursing practitioner school while I was in my last year of chiropractic. And then I graduated chiropractic school and really haven't practiced chiropractic physical medicine in my entire life. What happened is I got out and I immediately went into doing nurse practitioner. So I was doing IVs when I first started. I was doing hormones, a lot of joint injections, a lot of injection therapies. And about 3 years into practice, I heard about these peptides. I was friends with a couple guys, at a group chat with a couple guys, and they had joked with me, "You've been in school for years. When do we get the steroids? When do we get the growth hormone? Come on, we want to get big. We want to grow." And it was, it was a big joke with my guys. So I said to them, here's the thing. I don't know this in medicine. Let me look. And I started looking up growth hormone. And the first thing they found on growth hormone, the first Google search was growth hormone peptides. And I was like, what are these peptides? I've never heard of this stuff. Don't know what this is. This is brand new medicine to me. So I clicked on the link. My best friend opens up IV clinics, or used to open up IV clinics. She had an IV clinic in New York. She goes, "Oh, I've heard of these growth hormone peptides. This clinic in New York uses them. Let me see if she knows anything." So she asked this clinic in New York, and they sent me their white papers.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Gematria Products. Gematria is based in Carlsbad, California, and they manufacture ultra high quality dietary supplements using QI technology. Qi, as you probably know, is the energy that runs throughout our bodies and is the basis of Chinese medicine. Use the code AGELESS and get 20% off your order. I highly recommend Demetria's products. I personally use the Complete Aminos, the Heart Gems, and the Methuselah Life, which is an RNA and DNA sublingual spray. The website to go to is www.gematria.com/QI-technology. And there you'll find out more about this fascinating company, their products, and the technology.
On all the peptides, different, dimethylin alpha 1, there was some nitesimrel and ipamrel. So she got some information on it. I was like, okay, this is interesting. I don't know how this works, how well it works. So let me go learn. So right at this time was when the first conferences in the United States really started with Dr. Seeds and James Lavelle with the first two trainers for A4M. I attended one of the first lectures they had. And then Dr. Seeds started his own company and was doing SSRP, which was Seed Scientific Research Peptides.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going to see him. I did his second mastermind ever, went to see him and fell in love. I started using peptides. I just couldn't look back. I got into this medicine. And so peptides have become a major part in practice over the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So for the last 7 years, I've been using peptides. And I will say over the last 7 years, there haven't been a lot of changes. It's not like all of a sudden, BPC 157 came to the market. It's been out for 20 plus years.
Right.
It's just that right now we have more people interested because now we have GLP-1s. So what happened was GLP-1 started in the last 7 years, GLP-1s became big, right? We had semaglutide or Ozempic, and then we had tirzepatide and Mounjaro. And when I first started, the very first seminar I went to with Dr. Seeds, he said, you should look at GLP-1s. This is the future of metabolic disease. And it was liraglutide or Trulicity they talked about because we didn't have semaglutide. It wasn't out yet. It was on the forefront, but no one really knew how well it was going to work. So I started using liraglutide in practice, which was twice a week and more expensive, and you don't have weight loss. So people weren't exactly excited. And then, now we have all these new GLP-1s. And I think what has occurred is the GLP-1s have opened the doors to all the peptides that existed before. I mean, I've been using, again, peptides for 7 years. Now every influencer, any person out there, they own a lab, they have a compounding pharmacy. I'm selling peptides. It's like everywhere I look, there's peptides everywhere. I'm like, you can bathe in them at this point. And when I first started, it doesn't exist. So I've been doing this for years. About 4 years ago, I decided that I should start making some educational videos. I want people to understand how this medicine worked, what peptides were, why we use them, how we use them. So 4 years ago, I started posting a reel a day on Instagram, and I have just continued that single reel a day every day for the last 4 years. March will be 4 years that I've done this. So every day I post some kind of educational content, and peptides are part of it. I talk about hormones and IVs and things I do in practice and all the stuff longevity. So I've just gotten into this longevity educational space. And now, of course, I've become kind of an authority at some level. Hey, this is what I use in practice. I've been using this for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. These are the results I see. These are the studies to back everything up. And so at this point now, when people come to me and ask to train, I do a lot of trainings now. I teach outside the country for a company called ISCA. I also speak and lecture at events. And I've just kind of gotten more opportunities from, being kind of the person in the room who's been doing this for a long time with a lot of education to back this up. So I've been doing seminars on peptides, going to them for 7 years, and I have done so many. I keep going to seminars. I'm about to get another one and do another certification because I just think that the more knowledge I have in this space, the better off I am at presenting this. And the bigger thing is I want to be a good practitioner. I use a lot of this stuff in practice. And, Michele, we work together here, and I would say what makes me so unique is that I've done this for so long. I've got so much research to back me up. I know when to use stuff, when not to use stuff. What should we use here? What should we not use here? When should we change things? When should we not? Which gives me the advantage to kind of give this more put together protocol for patients. So there are a lot of practitioners who've gotten to peptides now, and there are a lot of people who are good at this now. But I think what's lacking is education, right? Now that there are so many people out there selling peptides online. In fact, I was sitting next to a girl in Miami a few weeks ago, and she's sitting there, and I heard her mention, retatrutide, the newest GLP-1 that's not available technically in the US and not through studies. And she's like, oh, I sell this on, I asked her, right in True Tide, are you taking that? She goes, oh, I sell it online. And I was
Uh,
like, well, you're like a 26-year-old, Pilates girl. What are you doing selling peptides?
yeah.
And she goes, oh, I have a side business. I sell peptides. And I said, oh, okay. And she has like 130,000 followers on TikTok or something. And she said, do you want to do a collab? Do you want to collaborate with me? And I said, sure. Like, why not? What, of course. And then she tried to charge me. I said, but you sell peptides. Why are you, I'm the authority on peptides and you're charging me to
Wow.
work with you. I just started laughing. I was like, this is not good business for you.
Right.
I was willing
Well,
to work with you, but anyway.
well, what you're saying about this whole frenetic world of peptides,
Hmm.
it scares me because
Hmm.
when things like that get like that, that's when the proverbial you know what hits the fan,
Yeah, of
and there's
course.
going to be controls. There's going to
Of
be,
course.
and there are. You and I both know there already is. There have been, the FDA has banned some of these and will
Yep.
continue to look for ways to help the pharmaceutical industry, I'm afraid to say. So, but mostly it reminds me of 2008 and the failure of the economic tsunami
Yeah.
when everybody was getting loans. Well, now everybody's selling peptides, and
Hmm.
people are buying them without really knowing the efficacy.
Hmm.
So, talk to us about how to know where to go, other than obviously to you, but how do you know where to go to make sure that these peptides are efficacious?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a few things. We get our peptides compounded from compounding pharmacies. So I always tell patients, as much as you possibly can, compound your peptides. If you're in the United States, please get compounded peptides. Check with your provider, check to see where they come from. I know some practitioners are using labs. And again, I would say it's because we talk about this education, right? As a provider, if I have almost no education in peptides, but I want to bring my practice and I've seen a bunch of stories and I've read maybe some, chat GPT or some Reddit posts, or maybe I've seen some stuff. Now I need to find a place to get them. A lot of providers are being reached out to by these lab companies, and labs are saying, hey, we only sell to providers. Well, that's great. But legally, I'm not supposed to sell from a lab. Anything that comes from a lab company is not allowed for providers to sell. There's also the fact that your malpractice insurance won't cover you. So if you're a practitioner and you're selling from a lab, your malpractice doesn't cover you if something goes wrong with that patient. Now, peptides are very safe. So I'm not worried about that overall, but I am worried about the legality of losing my license if I'm using
Right,
labs for everything. Now,
right.
again, there is some gray area here. There's a company called Niagen that's a lab.
Yeah,
They're not making in nicotinamide riboside as an actual pharmacy product, and
yeah,
doctors are using it, but there's
yeah.
no other option. So like there is this kind of gray area. Exosomes too, like they're from labs, they're technically biologics. Like there is a gray area, but when it comes to getting most of your peptides, I would definitely say that you want to buy your peptides from compounding pharmacies whenever humanly possible, because that is going to be the safest bet. They check for LPS, which is the polysaccharides, endotoxins. They check
Yeah.
to make sure there's no heavy metals. They make sure that the potency is correct. Also, if you have a question, you can call the pharmacy and say, hey, I don't know this dosage, or I don't know about this peptide. Can you tell me? You have an authority. The labs cannot give you any information. They legally cannot tell you how to dose. They can't tell, if they do tell you, they could be in legal trouble. They could actually go to jail for that because practicing medicine without a
Right.
license. So I do warn practitioners, please buy from compounding pharmacies. Now, there is a way, there are, again, I can't say every lab is bad, right? Here's the thing. You can't say every single lab in the world is bad, because there are labs producing these products to send to pharmacies. And some of these labs send to pharmacies and also ship to patients. They do have some of these labs kind of like play both sides. So then the question is, which ones are good? And that one I don't have a good answer for. You can ask for testing, you can ask for HPLC testing, you can ask for documentation. The thing is, Photoshop works really well. So
Mm-hmm.
there's absolutely no guarantee to know your product is, of course, what it says it is.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're a layperson and you don't even know how to read this. A lot of biohackers, right? They understand this stuff. They've done it. Some of these biohackers, I know there's some groups I know that are on Facebook, and they go together as a co-op and buy peptides from China directly. Hey, this is the lab. They buy all the stuff. They, as a group, pay for the testing. They do all the stuff that a pharmacy would do. So they incur that cost, but there's 500 people buying. So they get all the stuff and they get really cheap product, and it's good product. But for the most people out there, they don't have this. So finding out a provider that knows how to work with this stuff. Again, you want to know dosages, going on Reddit, or going on Instagram and hoping that your favorite influencer is telling you what to do isn't great.
Right.
Also, if you have an adverse reaction, what do you
Right.
do, right? Michele, you text me, and I'm like, hey, this is going on. What do I do? Great, you have someone to talk to. You have an
Right.
influence and buying off this influencer. That guy is not
Right.
going to respond back to you. They don't care what's going to happen. It might be a normal reaction. Like NAD
Right.
makes you feel short of breath. But if
Right.
you didn't know that and took it, you might be like, what just happened to me? I can't use this product. Something's
Right.
really dangerous. It's scary. So
Yeah.
I
What
always, yeah,
you're saying, sorry, Jason, but what you're
yeah,
saying, these are amino acids. They're not
yeah.
dangerous. However, in the wrong dosage with the wrong person, they can be very dangerous because people can, they're not their own, they shouldn't be their own doctor. So I think what you're saying, well, not I think, I know what you're saying is the
Yeah.
first order of business is to have a provider. If you're a
Yes,
consumer, if you're the
correct.
provider like you are, then you have to do your homework to make sure that
Education.
that you're dealing with. So the compounding pharmacies that you deal with, are they the
Mhm.
same ones today that they were when you first
Oh
began?
no. No,
No.
they've changed. We had I believe it's 2023 now. They had the ban on peptides. So a big ban came out. They did, it was called a category 2 ban.
I
They
remember.
pulled a bunch of peptides. So BPC 157 was pulled, thymosin beta
Right.
4 was pulled, GHKCU. They pulled a bunch of these peptides. And before that, even before that happened, when I first got into peptides, when I first started, so we kind of go back, right? Peptides are a bunch of amino acids put together, as you said, into building blocks. And so these are just small proteins, as I would tell someone. So you know what a protein is? It's just a smaller form of a protein. They're cell-to-cell signaling molecules.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want people to understand is that they are very, very, very safe. But again, wrong dosage is not right. Well, what they were trying to do is someone lobbied the FDA and said, hey, if this amino acid chain is over 40 amino acids, it's considered a biologic. Now, a biologic means it should be compounded only at a biologic lab. Now, there's no compounding pharmacy that exists that has a biological lab license. So if it's over 40 amino acids, they said you can't make it. So that
Right.
included things like tesamorelin, IGF-1, LR3, HCG, which people have used for fertility for years. So all these things were put on the ban list. And that is because I believe someone went to the FDA and said, hey, this 40 amino acid, if you just drop it down, our product would be safe. They'll never get in for compounding pharmacy. We're totally safe. No one can touch as a biologic. So there was some financial interest because the FDA, there was no reason to arbitrarily go from, I think it was 65 or 70 before this to go to 40,
Right.
arbitrarily changed for no reason other than financial gain from actual pharmaceutical industry. They
Right.
saw more access means we lose products. I personally think tesamorelin became generic, I believe, in 2020. And when that patent was about to expire, I think their way to save themselves from losing even more revenue was to drop this. And it might have not been them. It could have been anything. But
Mm-hmm.
someone went lobbied and said 40 amino acids. The first thing that happened is 40 amino acid dropped. We lost tesamorelin, HCG, IGF-1. Now, some pharmacies were still making these things. When the category 2 ban went into place, they took out a lot more, and then
Mm-hmm.
pharmacies really got worried. So a lot of pharmacies dropped every single product that was on the category 2 ban list. This is the category 2 list is the things that compounding pharmacies can compound, that they can make. So even if they're not FDA approved, BPC 157 has never been FDA approved, but was used, to treat injuries or repair, or at least to help with injuries and repair, not treat.
Right.
And all of a sudden you couldn't get access to it.
Right.
So a lot of my pharmacies dropped this stuff. So I had to find new sources. And so we have changed over the years. I have one single pharmacist that I've stayed with the entire time. They still do some of the things that I make, but most of my stuff had to switch over to pharmacies that again do allow me to access some of the peptides that don't exist. And they don't have everything. They just have a
Mm-hmm.
few more things I might find somewhere else. So I can't say this is like the one all. And there are other pharmacies doing this. We
Right.
expect in 2026 for this ban to be lifted and for them to bring back a lot of peptides. They have brought back some already off this
Mm-hmm.
list, but I think RFK is pushing. He's actually, working with. I'm sure working with pharmacies now. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's getting peptides. I'm positive the guy takes methylene blue. You see him
Yeah.
drop it in the cup, so he's doing this alternative
Right.
stuff already.
Right.
So he is probably pushing in the background to work at shutting down the labs, which is one thing, and then also bring down compounding pharmacies to bring everything back. Because again, part of the reason is when people go to labs is, hey, if my practitioner says, hey, I can't get you that BPC anymore, and they love it, they have no option. I'm going to
Of
go
course.
to this compounding, to this lab online and buy it. So you want to bring safety back, bring back compounding pharmacies to make the stuff, and
Right.
then take away the labs and do both at the same time. Because
Right.
without having the compounding pharmacies make it, now the compounding pharmacies are illegally making it, so they can get shut down. And the labs are not making it great. If they get shut down, they're gone. Now people have no access. So
Right.
I'm very much hoping 2026 changes the peptide, view. And we do know there has been some information from the DOJ that has said we're working at shutting down these labs in 2026. Whether or not it happens, who knows?
Right.
But they are, I think, working towards shutting the labs down and making providers. Now, again, the next thing is, how do we get providers trained? Because again, you and I know this is the buzz. We keep talking about this. This is what every person wants. They want to find peptides. They want to get on everything. I get asked all the time about peptides now. And again, I know I'm in the industry, but even people I know that I'm friends with are like, oh my God, these peptides are pretty great. I have a group chat with my guy friends that was started in the last 3 weeks, a peptide group chat. It didn't exist up till 3 weeks ago. And now my friends are like, wait, these peptides, we keep seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, can you answer questions of peptides? I'm like, yeah, I do this all day, every day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sure. So even my friends who are not in this industry are now coming to me and saying, hey, we want peptides. And it's just because, again, when I realize that my own friends are coming to me and saying, we know you do this, but now we really want to know. And they're asking each other. The
Yeah.
funniest thing is in this group chat, oh, did you hear this? And the guy said, yeah, I checked this and found this link and it says can do this and this. Jason doesn't do this. And I'm like, why are you not asking me? Like, why are you
Right.
guys going to Instagram and sending me the videos? And I know when my own friend group has come to me, we're all wanting to be at peptides, we're looking at this, we're finding it on the internet. I now know the doors are wide open. And so pretty soon it won't just be here, Michele. We're talking worldwide, right? I think the United States is always the forefront when it comes to medicine. We have the newest and best music, right? It comes here and then it goes around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing peptides becoming this worldwide global phenomenon. I mean, I just had a call with a Brazilian pharmacy this morning about peptides, and they're on the phone with me saying, well, actually, we have a lab in China that we work with that actually produces peptides that sells to, not only us, but the United States pharmacies. They're FDA registered and approved and, selling to everyone. We actually have a contract with them to sell other peptides in the gray area. Like, do you have any interest in kind of educating people on this? And I'm just laughing that here I am, and these other countries are like, we know this is going to be big. We want to
Mm-hmm.
get in our country before. I mean, this is going to be a worldwide phenomenon that
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going to be taking peptides because we now have realized the drug companies have lied to us. They have blindsided us. They've never treated a single disease. They just give you things to support and fix, or I guess I should say, keep the symptoms from getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have peptides which actually work and treating, healing, repairing, and helping us live longer. I would sit here and ask you, Michele, how do you feel? You've been doing this for a little while. How are you feeling taking the peptides you're on, really?
Well, that was going to be where I was going to go with the question. Not only my own personal experience, but just the big why. Why is it that, and I'll answer your question in a moment,
Yeah.
but why is it that something that was an unknown,
Hmm.
generally speaking, except within, let's say, the last 7 years,
Yeah.
has now become the darling of the longevity space?
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason that people are feeling the results that is making this such a big, hit. So what do you think peptides do for the human aging process that is
Hmm.
making it so much the number one choice that people
Yeah.
are actually willing to stretch their budgets? Because it
Yeah.
isn't. That's another
It's
thing.
not cheap.
These peptides are not cheap.
No,
I
they're
mean,
not.
they are a commitment
Hmm.
financially to people
Hmm.
who, because you have to, do them every, at least three times a week
Yeah.
for healthy people, but some people are doing them 7 days a week. So,
Yeah.
just try to give us a little guidance on that.
Yeah. Um, Well, I think to start with, peptides have become ubiquitous with longevity. I think that's just, you think peptides and you think longevity. That has just come, hand in hand. And some of the things we talk about in peptide medicine aren't even peptides. For example, NAD is a derivative of B6, and everyone
Yeah.
just throws it in peptides. Glutathione is not a peptide, but everyone's like,
Right.
oh, glutathione. And I'm like, well, it's not really a peptide. So
Right.
I think that word peptides just comes to mean you're on something longevity wise. It's helping your
Right.
body to repair. What has happened, I see, is we've been watching these bodybuilders for years. These people who try to work on health, longevity, and look big and muscular, and they aren't healthy, right? They're on steroids. They're not doing it
Mhm.
right. But they did have this kind of idea of, hey, we're doing something to help improve our health. If we are injured, we have these options. And what has happened over the last, 7 years is that first there became more trainings. In the United States, we didn't have any training. So when there's no training and education in the United States, no one can get access, which means no one knows. So even if the pharmacy carry this product, you don't know it exists. You as a practitioner, like, what is this Sermorelin or this Tesamorelin, Ipamorelin? What are these products? And they're not even asked. I'm not going to call the pharmacist. I see a drug on the menu that they have. I'm not calling the pharmacist and saying, what is this thing? Why should I use it? I'm not even asking. I'm just like, I don't know about it. Why would I talk about it?
Mhm.
So I think the first step was we needed education.
Mhm.
Dr. Seeds and James Lavelle brought that education. They started being the forefront of this education. So we got more education. So the more practitioners were using this. So now we have the kind of like the starting effect was people brought it in. They started talking about it. They started being education on it. Education became bigger and bigger. So even though we have education, the real change was, again, GLP-1s. Once semaglutide came out and people learned you could lose 15% of your weight, this was the best weight loss drug that's ever existed. We've been around this long, and this is the
Mhm.
first drug to make us lose weight. Now, I think we've watched over the last 30 years, you've seen people get sicker and sicker. Obesity has just climbed over the last 30
Mhm.
years. And we had no way to help people. We had, phentermine, we had the HCG diet, you had Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers. When Weight Watchers started adding semaglutide as an option, I said,
Right.
huh, interesting. Even you guys see that this is useful
Right.
and you're talking about diet all day. So we finally realized, wow, there's something out there that can actually help people lose weight. Now, again, I feel like we've been poisoned by the food industry for the last 30 years. So we've created a problem that the pharmaceutical industry is now helping to fix, and
Right.
they're doing a good job at it. But we still have all these bad poison foods out there that are not healthy for us. And I think,
Right.
what happened was people saw that we're not as healthy, they don't feel as good, and it's gotten worse. And we finally had a really good option to start getting some of that weight off and fixing the metabolic issues people had. And then people were like, well, I'm already injecting this one thing. What else can I put in my body that might help? And people started realizing that there were more and more peptides. So the talk of peptides became, as more practitioners got, learned about them, they started
Mhm.
talking about them. As they were teaching the patients on this, some of the patients were like, oh, these are really cool peptides. I should use this. And I think what drove the dial rate up was GLP-1s pushed patients into doctors' offices that had other peptides to sell and use. And all of a sudden, you get one peptide, now you get another one, and now all of a sudden you're an influencer like, Haley Bieber or Kim Kardashian, and now you start talking about this stuff. And when you have a platform that big and they're on a single peptide that their doctor put them on, and they talk about it, now you have a platform that accesses way more people than just a practitioner. So
Mhm.
the explosion, I think, started with GLP-1s, and the snowball effect is gone. I mean, now the crazy thing is, I see people that bodybuilders back in the day were ones injecting stuff, didn't know what they're doing. They just would inject. It's who cares if it's safe or not, if it gets me more muscle mass.
Mhm.
And now I'm seeing that same thing happening with regular patients. I don't know this compound, doesn't even have much research on it, but I'm going to take it and see what happens. Why not? All these other
Mhm.
peptides are safe, so they must all be safe. I'm seeing it now almost go fast forward where people are jumping the gun on research, like retatrutide, for example, isn't out yet. And
Mhm.
people are jumping the gun. It's not even out yet, but we're going to go try this stuff. It's
Mhm.
pretty good. It works like the other GLP-1s. It's going to be the best of the best. So
Right.
people are now, if you asked people 5 years ago to take something that wasn't FDA approved,
Right.
that you were injecting, people would be like, you're crazy. Absolutely not. And now people are like, is there a new peptide out? Whatever that is, I'm going to
Right.
go take it. It was my skin. Works on rats? Done. Okay, let's go. Let's do it. So
Right.
we have seen this pullback from being the conservative medicine. People are now feeling safe to use it because, again, so many people are speaking about it that I think everyone just feels it's normal and natural. I think it's really funny because when I first started, when I told patients they had to inject this, this BPC 157, they'd be like, inject? Like, I don't inject anything. I only take oral pills, right? We're in the
Right.
pharmaceutical industry. Modern medicine is pill, pill, pill. And now when people are coming to me and they're not phased anymore, you gotta do an injection. Oh yeah, I can do an injection, no big deal. 5 years ago, people were like injections, like,
Right.
what are the other
Right.
options? I don't feel safe injecting things I don't know. And now people are injecting things they don't know and I don't know about, and they're injecting them. And they're not bodybuilders. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. So I think the longevity world saw healing. They saw longevity. We can increase telomere lengthening. We can help with muscle mass. We can help with fat loss. We can help with mood improvement, repair recovery. We can help with skin, hair, nails. There are all these different options of things that can work. And so
Hmm.
everyone's saying, how do I make my body last longer? And peptides have been a huge part. We've used supplements for years. And you use supplements for years. I've used supplements for years. And I've never seen the movement with supplements that I see with peptides. And not that supplements don't help. I'm not at all bashing supplements. There are times and places to use supplements, but the needle is it's not moving as fast
Right,
and it's not moving as far as a
right.
peptide. There is nothing equivalent that I can think of supplement wise to work the way BPC
Well,
157 does.
well, the supplements. Oh no, we can talk about the oral
Yeah.
part of BPC 157
Hmm.
too, because that comes from the gut. And of course, there are people that inject BBC
Yeah.
157 for joints and muscles, but they also take the oral, which in combination that helps with the microbiome. So,
Hmm.
but what I was going to say about your comments is that uh, speaking of the microbiome, I mean, getting supplements to get to the mitochondria, to get to where they need to
Yes.
be to make a difference is a much bigger hurdle because most people are toxic, and so their microbiome blocks their ability, their gut issues block the
Yeah.
ability to. So, but with an injection, it's going right into the bloodstream. Same like
Yep.
with sublingual. In the more recent years, I started doing far more sublingual supplements
Hmm.
or even nasal sprays or
Hmm.
liposomal, like I use Quicksilver Scientific because of the formulation. And Dr. Shea definitely recognized a long time ago that liposomal was a much better delivery system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think what you're saying is that people didn't get the success with regular capsules or regular
Hmm.
pills because it had to go through the digestive tract
Yes.
in order to get to where it needed to make healing. So and the other thing is the insulin needle is so tiny that
I know.
people who were afraid of they were thinking injections like they used to have when they were kids,
Yeah.
from a doctor with these big long needles. Now they
Uh-huh.
realize it's just a little prick,
Yeah.
and you're not doing that much every day that you're doing it. It's like, well, you and I know that the dose is about 10 ml, right? If you're
Yeah.
doing it,
10 units. Yeah.
so 10 ml on an insulin needle is like what, a quarter of an inch of
Yeah.
fluid.
There's nothing there. Right. And then I had a patient yesterday tell me, you made me fill the whole syringe. I said, why haven't you done this peptide protocol? She goes, well, the syringe had to be is a full 50 units.
Oh,
It was a lot. I was like, 50 units is still nothing. It's not even a full ml. Like it's a very, and she's like,
right,
that's a lot of fluid. I'm like, Okay, sure. That's why you haven't started. Then go to half of that and start taking
right,
half.
right.
Anything that does
Just
not to this point.
do something rather than nothing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
as long as we're talking about this, there are a lot of oral peptides that have come on the
Hmm.
market since this has become the big
Hmm.
darling. And by the way, Jim Laval was on my podcast about two
Yeah.
years ago. And so we were talking about this, then when, I mean, he
Hmm.
obviously was one of the primary educators at the
Yes.
American Academy of Anti-Aging. So he had so much to say about, the injectable peptides, but
Hmm.
now oral have become, and well, I guess even the liposomal
Hmm.
from
Delivery.
Quicksilver, they now have a whole line of peptides. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw that. Epitalon is their newest one. So, how do you guide your patients or the people viewing us
Hmm.
today as to which way to go? Let's say they want to do peptides, but they're a little afraid of needles, even though it's not a big deal. But so how do you guide them in
Yeah.
terms of the priority of what to do?
Exactly. So, I mean, this is where it comes down to pharmacokinetics and efficacy. I had a pharmacy I just talked to yesterday, and they said, we're coming out with a new GLP-1 that's going to be oral. Listen,
Yeah,
I'm all about oral. I think it's great. I think the bottom line is injectables always going to win because we get 100% absorption. Like you said, liposomal is great. Don't get me wrong. Liposomal still has an upper limit of absorption. The
right.
oral has an upper limit of absorption. I believe there's a company now that's putting out biostrips, I think is their oral. There's liposomal. And everyone's claiming oral's 80% effective as opposed to doing, injections. So I would rather have the most, bang for my buck, which is going to be injection. Injection
Hmm.
always works the best. Unless I'm working on
Right.
the gut, then I do oral. There are a handful of peptides like MK677 that's only oral. 5-amino-1-MQ is a small molecule, can pass through the gut really easily. That can be oral. So there are some things that orally actually work. When it comes to peptides, the reason we're so against peptides being oral is that we have enzymes in our body to break down these peptide bonds. So our these basically are mini proteins. So when you ingest it, your body's breaking it down right away. We don't want it to happen. So we have two things going on. One, we have enzymes to break these things down. And two, like you said, our body's toxic. And three, we're getting older. So as we get older, our gut doesn't work as well. We can't absorb as well as we used to. If you eat the same meal at
Right.
20 that you ate at 60, absorption of nutrients has gone significantly down. So you can't even get into your system all this stuff. Now,
Right.
liposomal
Right.
does bypass that because it goes to the buccal membranes. Um, but the absorption rate for most peptides isn't great. I have had companies call me and say, we have an oral product. Let me show you the pharmacokinetics. 60% absorption. I'm not going to disagree. There might be some companies that are making this stuff now. They're doing a good job. And there has been some belief that we've changed the ability to get this stuff into the system easier.
Hmm.
I would rather patients do oral than not do peptides at all. So if it
Right.
comes down to I refuse to inject, fine, then take an oral. I don't
Hmm.
think it's going to work as well. I don't think liposome is as effective. I've seen in practice, we use oral BPC a lot. I don't see oral BPC working for injuries. I've had patients do oral BPC and then switch to injectable when I'm said, it doesn't work. They're not getting the results. They switch to injectable and all of a sudden they start getting better. So,
Right.
and again, that's an N of one. It's anecdotal. I can't say that I have a study to prove this, but I can see in clinical practice, the oral peptides don't seem to be as strong as utilizing the injections. There's a good one. NAD is a big thing everyone's on. Everyone wants NAD right now, IV,
Right.
sub-Q injections. There is a company, several, making liposomal products, just like Quicksilver. They have an
Right.
NAD that's liposomal. And I believe the information is that about 20% of this is actually absorbable. So you get 20% of what you take in.
Right.
Now, let's say the price is equivalent. You don't care what price. That means you're taking 5 times more to get in your system. I have had patients who try this. They do 5x what they did liposomally, and they do an injection. The patients that do injections that like the injections, I should preface that. And they've told me they do not feel the same taking the liposomal as they do when they do the injection of the sub-Q and AD. They said, I feel more energized, I have better brain function. And when I do the liposomal, I don't really feel anything. Even if the dosing is 5x and it's supposed to be the same equivalent dosing, they don't feel it. So there must be something that's not working as well. And
Hmm.
look, some people say oral works great. They do an oral product, of a TB4 frag is a common one people do orally now, or
Hmm.
epitalin, for example. And maybe it's working on some people. Again, the other problem with peptides is a lot of peptides, there's no testing. I can't test how epitalin's working. There's no test for me to see that. I can't test
Yeah.
BPC157. I
Yeah.
can tell if an oral GLP-1 is working because if you don't
Yeah.
lose weight, clearly
Yeah.
it's not working.
And
Um,
the metabolic metrics are there
exactly,
for
exactly,
diabetes. So, yeah, no,
exactly.
the GLP-1s have really led the way in terms of being able to analyze the results.
Hmm.
And I think that's also, as you said earlier, why so many people have turned to peptides generically
Yeah.
because they saw after doing a GLP-1, they say, oh my God, I've never been able to lose 20 pounds weight,
Hmm.
you said.
Hmm.
So, okay, so
Exactly.
so back up for one moment
Yeah.
and give us a primer of people that are just starting out on peptides. What
Yeah.
would you guide them? Which ones would you guide them to
Yeah.
take as the foundational peptides? Because there are so how many, like 55,000 peptides or
Yeah.
something like that.
There's so many. I mean, for most people don't know bactracin. It's an antibiotic. It's a
Yeah,
peptide, right?
yeah,
Insulin's a peptide. Glutathione. We have lots of peptides. The ones that we do in the longevity, there's probably 50 to 60 in the longevity
yeah,
circle that are being used. Circle it around.
right,
There's lots of peptides that people use and don't realize every day. But in this field of longevity, and we're talking about longevity peptides,
right,
my first thing always is do hormones, check your hormones. After hormones optimize, go into your growth hormone peptides.
yeah,
I'm a huge proponent of things like tesamorelin, CJC 1295, sermorelin, ipamorelin. These things are going to raise your growth hormone. I always say the most bang for your buck is covering all the things you can cover. So when it comes to longevity, what do we care about? sexual function, immune function, repair, recovery, sleep. It's a big one. Fat loss, muscle gain, mood improvement, brain improvements, skin, hair, nail improvements, motivation, energy. Growth hormone hits across the board, everything you can imagine, right? It's
Yeah.
raising the tide all the way up. So
Right.
it's not going to be the fix for everything, but I always tell people it's like when I'm panning for gold. If I'm sitting there and I put a bunch of sand in my sieve, the first thing I want to do is let's shake it and see what's left. What you have
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of complaints. Let's find out what we have that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the first shake is always hormones. Hey, we put you on hormones. Let's see what's left. Great. Now you have these big clumps there. Well, those
Mm-hmm.
big clumps to me are now I'm going to put you on growth hormone peptides, dip that in the water. Oh wow, you only have one little rock in here. That's the one thing I have to work on. Okay, we can fix that. We have maybe have one specific peptide for that. But if I've now just fixed your sleep and your ability to make muscle mass and maybe your immune function was better, great. Now your libido isn't better. Great. We have a peptide for that. It's PT141. It's going to work
Mm-hmm.
really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get as wide as I can, cast that wide net, and then go in. I had a patient the day, he's like, I'm taking this, 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 and this. And I said, well, why don't you just take growth hormone peptides right now
Mm-hmm.
and hold off on everything else? And then we'll go back and add things. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you can't do all those other peptides,
Yeah.
but don't you want everything to be a little bit better? And then you can add. So I'm always promoting growth hormone peptides as a first step. Now we can't use them in cancer. I don't use them for a patient that recently has had cancer. There's some problems if you're having, any cancer occurring, we don't want it. So there are some contraindications. This is why you want a provider to
Mm-hmm.
work with. But that is my first step is everyone use growth hormone peptides. NAD is become this like everyone wants NAD. Everyone wants to be on it. I think it works well. Do I think it's as amazing as everyone's saying? No, I'd rather put people on something called thymosin alpha 1 for the immune system. As we age, we get what's called inflamma aging. The immune system doesn't work as well. We get more inflammation. Thymosin
Mm-hmm.
alpha 1 does a wonderful job with the immune system, helping repair it and get
Mm-hmm.
it to work better and more efficient. So twice a year, I'm like, do this thymosin alpha 1. In fact, I would do that before putting someone on, NAD. So if the first month is going to be growth hormone peptides. That second month is going to be thymosin alpha 1 if I had my way. Now, unfortunately, I don't have my way with every patient. They're like, no, I want that NAD right now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine, we can do it. But as part of your protocol, we're going to build this in so you can have something to help the immune system because that's my number, two thing I see as being an issue is our immune systems don't work as well. So if we could help our
Right.
immune system be a little better, for me, it's wintertime in Chicago. I don't get a cold or flu. Thymosin alpha 1 for a month is going to help me protect my immune system and
Yeah.
reduce my risk of getting into some kind of infection during this cold season.
Well,
So,
I'm so glad that you're saying this. Everybody always says VPC 157 is the very first, and
no.
actually, I agree with you. You got to start with where the problems lie,
Yeah.
and most people, if they're over 40, they've lost growth hormone, and if they're
Hmm.
taking a GLP-1, they're even more likely to be losing
Yes.
muscle mass. So
Yes.
you're
Exactly.
saying exactly what I think people need to hear, which is look at your particular issues and don't just
Hmm.
follow what some influencer's saying on Instagram. So okay, so we've got foundationally speaking
Yes.
thymosin alpha 1 because it's
Hmm.
inflammaging, which is
Hmm.
the immune system. We have growth. Well, I should have started with growth hormone, which is I don't know anybody over 40 that isn't losing growth hormone unless they're replenishing it. It just
Exactly.
happens. It's what happens with our bodies. So giving yourself more growth hormone, and then if you're adding a GLP-1, if you started with that, then the growth hormone is only going to be a great
Exactly.
partner
Yeah.
for the semaglutide. So okay, so then what would come next after those two?
Well, then I would say, let's talk about recovery repair. That's when BPC fits into me. I will
Yeah.
say I've been to lots and lots and lots of seminars on peptides. In the first beginning seminars, the masterminds I went to, Dr. Siege used to ask the crowd, the first couple ones, if you had to pick a peptide, what's your favorite peptide? And I would tell you around the room, BPC 157 is the most common,
Yes.
ubiquitous, everyone wants. And I'll tell you why. The reason people love it is it does so much to the body. It can make more growth hormone receptors on the cells. It can help improve your repair recovery. I think of it as water. Like it's pretty much everyone that could put on it, I put on it.
Yes.
So not that I don't think it's a great peptide, but I'm not going to start with it, even though it's probably the best peptide for pretty much anyone out there to use.
Yeah.
There are other things to use that would be more useful, right? Growth hormone goes down to 10% by the time you're in 60. Well, at
Yes.
that point, growth hormone's going to be a better option than that because repair recovery is great, but most people when they turn 60s, my sleep is terrible. I can't sleep for crap. I'm
Yeah.
losing all this muscle mass. I'm sarcopenic. I don't have muscle. My energy isn't great. Well, BPC isn't going to cover any of those things. Now, if you're an avid working out, you're exercising all the time, you're getting injured a lot, BPC is great. Don't get me wrong, it's an amazing peptide, but that's not the crowd of most people. Most people are not going to the gym so often they can't repair and recover. Most people are just saying, my normal life, I don't feel as good as I did 10 years ago. And that's because growth hormone has gone down. So BPC comes third for me. That's my next thing. Down the line, I like GHKCU. That'd be probably next after that, skin, hair,
Right.
nails. And that's my men. It's so funny. Used to be my women were very vain. I want my skin to look good. Now my men are like, wait, I don't want my skin to look bad. Hold on, hold on. So my men are now starting to get GHKCU. Now they've learned about it. They're getting into this now. So
Mm-hmm.
GHKCU is really up there for me.
And
Beyond
that,
that,
let's just stop for a second. That is to
yeah,
tell everybody if they don't know, is the
yeah,
copper peptide,
correct,
which is for skin, hair, and nails. Is the
correct.
something that is most efficacious. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm so happy you said that next, because I think vanity is still,
of
when you
course.
think about aging,
Yeah,
what do people think about? As you said
yeah.
earlier, wrinkles and gray hair. So
And not
I
everyone can get a
forgot to say,
facelift every 5 years, right? If you can't get a
yeah,
facelift every 5 years, what are you doing to get
yeah,
this done? So GHKC is an awesome peptide. I can't say enough. It also makes more stem cells.
yeah,
So there's so many. I mean, GHKCU repairs DNA. So many reasons why I love GHKCU, but most people like it for that, skin, hair, nails. I want my
yeah,
collagen better.
yeah,
Especially the weight loss. We talked about this, the GLP-1s. You
right.
can tighten everything back up by getting back on GHKCU to tighten all the ligaments up. It also tighten up that skin. It works on elastin as well as collagen. So that's honestly, if I had to, when I build protocols for patients, the simplest is easy, right? Like we're getting a bunch of peptides now, but most people, first off, that budget friendly, right? Now we've kind of got the budget, we've gotten the price up. Most people ask me, what can I do is the least amount of things. And I'm always like, look, get your hormones checked and start on growth hormone peptides.
Yes,
Maybe be on a GLP-1 long term. GLP-1s have now shown, at least semaglutide, has shown a 20% reduction of major adverse cardiovascular events, so MACE.
I
And in
know.
the FLEX
Isn't that
study,
amazing? That
20%.
side effect, nobody thought of that when.
No.
So now you have this other benefit that's
Yeah.
so crucial to
20% reduction
using.
of heart disease. Yeah.
Yeah, but however, there's always a caveat. So
Yeah.
going back to the GLP-1s, people are taking it. Maybe they're overdosing, or
They
because
are.
they reach a plateau and
Hmm.
they stop losing. Maybe they needed to lose a lot more weight than you or I would ever
Hmm.
want it for. But let's just say it's a 40-pound weight loss that they're looking
Yeah.
for, and they get at 20 pounds, they get a plateau. So now they say, oh, I better increase my dosage. But then that's going to create the muscle loss that,
Hmm.
at a micro dose. I mean, I don't know. Elizabeth Yurth, Dr. Yurth from
Yeah.
Boulder, I just adore her and I
She's great.
respect. And she told me on my podcast 2 years ago, she said, I microdose, meaning her.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
she's all, very fit. But the fact that
Hmm.
she would microdose tells you that she's just looking to keep that strong, physical health and no weight
Yeah.
loss, no weight gain, and her metabolic health.
Hmm.
So, but she understands the muscle issue.
Hmm.
So microdosing is for her, and for me, somebody like me, is the way to go. But you do have to watch for the plateauing if you're trying to lose a
Yeah.
bigger amount, and you have to watch for the right dose.
And the
To
muscle loss, right? This is the biggest thing, right? The number one thing people complain about. I'm losing muscle.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm losing fat in my face, right? My face has gotten thinner. I'm getting
yeah,
Ozempic face. I'm getting Ozempic butt. And these
right,
things are happening because fat pads have gone away in your face over the years. You
right,
haven't seen yourself 30 pounds heavier for maybe 10 years.
right.
And now you're like, well, how come my face is so thin? Well, that's what happened if you stayed the same weight over
Mm-hmm,
the same number of years. But
mm-hmm,
unfortunately, you didn't stay that weight. So you didn't see those fat pads go away.
mm-hmm.
All these people losing, and then you have the muscle loss. I fear muscle loss more than anything because muscle is the currency of longevity.
Of
If you
longevity,
lose,
right?
yeah, if you lose muscle, I mean, right now, when you turn every year that after the age of 35, you're losing muscle mass, just going down. So unless you're doing something to maintain it, it's going down. And even when you get older, you in your 60s, now you can't get as much muscle mass as you had in your 30s, even if you maintain it. So when you add a GLP-1, and a lot of people using GLP-1s are 40s and above, right? Is the target audience, probably 50 and above is where I'd see most people using it because they're overweight. They're seeing this giant muscle loss and they're not being able to counteract it. They're not taking enough protein. They're not doing, hormones. They're not taking growth hormone peptides. And they're complaining about this. And like you said, they're going so high in dose and to get that weight down that they're losing that, muscle. And then what happens? They come off. What's the number one complaint? I gained the weight back. Well, you gain it back because your metabolism is slowed down. If you lose, 20 pounds, and 8 pounds of that is going to be muscle, 7 pounds is muscle. Muscle is your strongest ability to move metabolism. If you've lost 7 pounds of muscle, you can eat even less. Your amount of food has gone way down and plummeted to how much you can take in. So you want to hold that muscle mass. You can keep eating at least some of the food you were eating before. Because if you go back to that same diet, you put on weight quicker. This is what everyone's complaining. I put on weight so much faster when I came off. Well, how much did you lose? I don't know, 30 pounds. Great. Well, you realize you probably lost 7, 8, 9 pounds of muscle in that. That 9 pounds of muscle accounted for a large part of metabolism, maybe like 100 calories extra, 150 calories. And if you're eating the same amount of food you ate before, you're going to skyrocket your weight because you have the metabolism isn't working. So I think that the big fear is muscle loss. Yeah.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be this is just a suggestion, but wouldn't it be best if somebody's going to go on a semaglutide, on a GLP-1, to combine that, just not even allow them to do it unless they're going to do, combined with it, a ipamorelin or a tesamorelin, a growth hormone.
100%.
Like they should be twins.
Yeah, we do this in practice. We run this stuff quite often. Listen, again, it's cost, right? So patients come up to you and they say, this is expensive. And then I say, we have to do this too. And they balk, right? Okay, you don't have to do it if you're exercising and you're eating enough protein and, you're doing other things. Exercise and protein are number 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah.
And then I always push the next thing. And then the next thing they're like, well, that costs me extra. I don't know if I can afford it. So I think it's really hard because there is a price point that people care about, right? I can only spend this much. And they also don't, first off, because that trust with your practitioner. I don't really know if I trust this GLP-1 to even work. I don't know if I trust you. And then when you gain trust, usually after the second visit, I'm like, hey, we should probably add this in. You've lost 7 pounds now. Your goal is 30. Let's put this in to help you keep that muscle mass. Right. So I'm utilizing GLP-1s with growth hormone peptides all the time. Right. But I think there does become a problem with it is that there is a price to longevity. I always tell people, everyone says, why does insurance cover it? Well, insurance works like car insurance. Your car insurance does not cover brakes or windshield wipers. But if that rain is pouring down, your brakes aren't working, you get in a car accident, guess what? Now they'll cover your brakes. They're going to cover your windshield wipers, but they're destroyed. But so are you. So this is how insurance works. Insurance works when you've already been destroyed and your body isn't working and you have something bad happen. It does not cover anything before you get to that point. So we're trying with GLP-1s, growth hormone peptides, hormones, to slow down that aging process so you don't have to go to the hospital for cancer, cardiovascular disease, and the other things that kind of go on to aging, just Alzheimer's. We want to slow down the diseases of aging, and GLP-1s are the best slow down process of disease of aging. Heart disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer. I mean, this is GLP-1s. Like every person should consider GLP-1s. It's just for the sheer fact of disease of aging will go down. Yeah. But, I can't, GLP-1s are a whole other topic. They're the best thing that has ever come out. I love growth hormone peptides. I love all the other things. And the reason we started this saying it with the reason why longevity conference got so big was GLP-1s. And it's because they move the needle the furthest in that longevity market. All the other things support it. They support metabolic health. But if you can give one single thing to improve metabolic health, GLP-1s, I want to almost revamp. The only reason I don't want to start with GLP-1s is because people are worried about losing muscle mass. They're worried about losing these things. They're just worried. I don't need a GLP-1. People, then obviously we have the people that are, you've seen them, I've seen them. They either love GLP-1s or completely hate them. They're the devil. They should never be used. You're destroying your body. It's from the Gilead monsters. Venom. What are you doing? It's like the crazy stuff we hear. And so it's a really hot button topic to be on GLP-1s. It would honestly be my top peptides. BPC, it'd be before BPC. If I can make you live longer, I would. And I think in longevity space with you and I, GLP-1 should be in the top 2. It should be, growth hormone peptides and GLP-1s. Honestly, GLP-1s before even growth hormone, because longevity space, we want to live longer. But For the normal people who aren't thinking of the next 20 years, right? In the biohacking community, we're thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 years in advance. Most of the people that we reach and most people that listen to us and I see in practice are thinking over the next 12 months. They're not
Yeah.
thinking over the next 15 years. So for them, that's when growth hormone matters because they want to feel better right now. You
Right.
and I are thinking, I want to feel good in 15 years, though. I don't want to feel good right now. It's great. But if you
Right.
don't cover my next 15 years, I'm also going to lose you. So
Yeah.
this is the kind of way the population shifts, right? We have the longevity biohacker market, which GLP-1s are probably the top one you should be considering. And then
Yeah.
we have your day-to-day people who are just like, I just want to feel better right now, doc. I don't care if 10 years from now I don't have a heart attack at this point. What I care about is I'm not sleeping and I'm losing muscle mass and my sex drive sucks. Like, what can we
Yeah.
do about that? So I
Yeah.
think there's just different markets of where we're looking at. That's why, again, GLP-1s aren't the top. But and I talk about them every day to people, all day, every day. But the education side is so hard to explain to patients why they should be on them.
Well,
So,
and you need to also deal with the issue that we talked about earlier, which is when something becomes that effective
mhm,
that people see results from their friends or on the of social media or whatever, or they themselves if they've tried it, they then it becomes this wild west, which is kind of what's happening with peptides. So your role is so important, and this is why I tell everyone who ever asks me, never ever get on peptides without a provider.
mhm,
You've got to have someone who understands what you're doing and
mhm.
understands your body, because everybody's biochemistry is different.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with you about the GLP-1s. Even people who are don't even need to lose weight, but they're doing it for
Yeah.
overall wellness. So okay, well they just flagged me that our time is almost up. So I want to ask you a big
Yeah.
kind of a global macro question.
Yeah.
At the show, I saw these little robots running around, and it was like so weird to be standing at a booth and this little robot is next to you. So, what do you think is going to be the future of aging and wellness and longevity,
Mm,
given what we have now? That all the things we've talked about today, peptides being the big subject, but also stem cells and DNA methylation and AI and all the things, the robots. Where do you see? Let's just project maybe 5
yeah.
years from now, just as a conservative. What do you think you'll be saying on my podcast 5 years from now?
5 years. Yeah. So I mean, I think I had the same fear everyone else does. As AI takes over more of our lives, we
Yes.
have more job loss. We have
Yeah.
people making less money. I do see our health declining over the next 5 years, worse than it is now, because again, when there's less jobs because AI is taking over jobs, even mine is at risk of being gone.
Right.
So when I see this happening, I'm imagining a Wally situation, moving with Wally, where they have the
Yeah.
spaceships and they're all overweight. I'm like, that's where we're moving towards in the overall health. I think the most people in the United States are going to move towards that direction. The people like you and I that are in the know, there's going
Right.
to be so many more treatments for us. Like the people that know about this stuff and have access, because that's what most people don't have access. They don't have the education. So I think one, I need to see more education on this around
Yes.
globally.
Yep.
And I think if we get enough education on there, I think we can keep people's health going. I think we can see reduction of heart disease. We can see reduction of cancer. We can see increase in lifespan. Finally, for the first time since antibiotics, we can finally see and the lifespan start to creep back up. Between
Mm-hmm.
stem cells and AI, I think we can make better treatment plans and really help people live longer. But again, the problem is going to be people that can access it now are still getting access. But if we see job losses with AI, we're going to see more unhealthy people because,
Yeah.
again, the food industry is not changing for the better.
Yeah.
So all we have is these peptides to help improve it, which again, it's working. I do see wellness as a whole growing. We know the wellness industry is growing. So I do think there's going to be a large improvement in the overall health of people that are in this industry. But
Right.
it's trying to educate enough people. You and I both went to Biohackers World. It is not big. It is
Yeah.
not tens of thousands of people. And until we get to that precipice where it's tens of thousands of people coming to the events to learn how to get
Right.
themselves better, I think that's where we lose people. People are not invested enough in their health because they're thinking we're
Mm-hmm.
going to just have another peptide or injection or pill. And I think we're not outpacing how sick we are as
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. So I still think we're going to be much sicker in 5 years
Mm-hmm.
unless, I mean, look, retatrutide has 29% weight loss. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have another GLP-1 coming out in the next 5 years that's going to hit obesity, knock it all the way down. And if we see that
Hmm.
happen, then yeah, then I think we see a healthier worldwide population. And I do think that's on the horizon. I do think there is a GLP-1 or something coming out that will
Hmm.
really change metabolic disease, because I
I
think
know.
that's number one.
I know, but Jason, you can't really expect a peptide to make all the difference if people don't
Oh no,
change their
no,
lifestyle. So
no,
let's
no.
talk about
Agreed.
the five pillars of health.
Yeah.
If people are not dealing with their diet or their exercise or their
Hmm.
stress levels or their sleep levels
Yeah.
or their connection to others, where I just put that as love,
Yeah. Yeah.
the love pillar. So, those are the five foundational things that basically there is a peptide for every single one of those. However, that's just the band-aid. You can
100%.
help, but you've got to go to the root cause of, making change in your life. So I think the education you talk about needs to get to the changes that we need to make. And Robert F. Kennedy I think he's doing an amazing job of trying
Yes.
to help people, to educate them to making changes in their choices. It starts with
Agreed.
personal choice, right?
Agreed. Agreed. I 100% agree. And I think I'm hoping that the future of medicine is us getting better and healthier. But I think it starts with education. I think as we
Yeah.
get more educated as providers and we can pass
Yes.
education down to our patients, and then hits that critical point like peptides have. We hit a critical point with peptides. I'm
Yes.
hoping we hit a critical point with wellness. We're seeing alcohol levels drop. So
Yes.
I think we are seeing a movement in that direction. I just hope it continues that snowball effect. People like start
Yeah.
making better
No.
choices. More yoga, less partying, less
Yeah.
drinking.
Right.
That's my 5 years. I hope the wellness industry has exploded, and your regular person walking down the streets like, oh yeah, I quit drinking like last year. I heard how bad it was for me, and I'm just done. So if we
Yeah.
can start getting rid of these things and start educating people on a really large basis, I do see us finally having a better health. Minus peptides. Through peptides, it's going to be just wanting to be better and feel better overall. I think
All
that's what
right.
we're looking
Thank
for.
you for that. That's so. Before we go, I want everybody to know basically how to reach you
Yep.
if they want to talk to you. And I love the fact that you've been so generous about offering a first time consulting with you. Normally, it costs like $350 for,
Yep.
and I think that's a deal because you give people an hour. No,
Yeah.
where do you find a doctor in this world that you can get, without insurance, 1 hour for 350?
Yeah.
So, but you're offering our viewers, if they use, well, just maybe if you could tell your staff the
Yeah.
ageless, let's call it ageless 20.
Yeah, ageless 20 is great. If you reach out to my staff and say ageless 20, we're offering $200 for new patient consults that we normally
I
don't do
mean,
now.
if somebody doesn't do that and then take the next steps with you to get their labs, because as you said, the very first thing you have to do, if you don't already have your labs done when you come to talk to you, and you can do this telemedicine, they don't have to come
Yep.
to Chicago where you're
Yep.
located. So telemedicine has, become a great avenue for, a Zoom call like we're having is important because you get to see the
Yes.
patient.
Yep.
So how do they reach you?
Oh, couple things. My website is fountainwellness.net. And then there's also my Instagram, which is Dr. Doctor period Jason, last name Pencek, Pencek. And I have a bunch of stuff on Instagram. I'm always posting, information, educational videos. That's what I do all day, every day is education. If you
Right.
reach out to me Instagram, I would just send you my clinic info, and that'll basically be our email as well as our website, and you can go there and check us out, and then come set up an appointment.
Yeah, so the email address is on the Instagram account.
It
Is that
is.
what you're
It
saying?
is. It is on there. It is in there. Yep. I have it. You have access, and then if you have a question, you can reach out to me. I answer everyone that reaches out to me. I do pretty much answer every single Instagram
Wow.
message I get. So it takes a
Wow.
long time. I spend like an hour or two a day doing Instagram, but I do respond back to almost every post and every
Wow.
comment
And
and
I can
every
tell you,
message.
I look forward because I opened my Instagram account. One, because we do reels as well, not as often as you, but
Yeah.
I oftentimes just want to see what our reels look like, and I go to my account, and you're the first person every single day. It's like eating breakfast. You're like the first nutrition I get every day, and when I open my account, and there you are with
So I post
a
every day.
reel that gives me and everybody else that's watching kernels of education that are so important. So I really want to thank
Awesome.
you, Jason. I know that's a lot of work.
It takes a lot of energy, but it's passionate. I love medicine. I love talking about it, and I want people to be
Yes.
educated. I want everyone to know how to do this.
Well, thank you so much. So, where are you going to be speaking next? At what conference? Just so people know.
Oh my gosh. Next one I'm supposed to be in Colombia and Cardigan for Ithaca. And then I think the next one after that would be Biohackers. And then I'm traveling. I have a bunch of conferences. I'm going to Jordan next year. I'm going to back to Brazil, Dubai. I have a lot of conferences out of the country next year. I think I'm going to 9 or 10 different countries next year.
Oh, wow.
So
So
a
you'll be
lot of
on,
traveling out of the country. Yeah, I have
you'll be on the
anything in
road.
the United States. I have been asked to a bunch. I was supposed to teach actually at A4M, their neurotherapy this year, and it didn't end up working out. The other provider was like, I wanted you, but they made me pull peptides in and you couldn't help me. So we'll see if I'm teaching A4M next year.
Wow, that would be a great feather in your cap, Jason.
It would. I would be very excited about that. So that I get asked to speak a lot now, and it's getting harder to fit stuff into my actual day to day because I run a practice still. So I'm still very busy outside of that.
Well, just so you know, I'm involved with Rob Fletcher. I think I've told you, I've
Yeah.
recommended him to you. And he's working, he's Dr. Goldman's kind of go-to person, very talented. And he is doing the joint venture with Epoch Health and World
Okay.
Health Net, which is Dr. Goldman. So they're looking for people like you to be the spokesperson. So maybe get in touch with Rob and tell him that you'd be interested to be one of their
Yeah.
longevity masters. They did approach me, and I am going to do I guess it's like a 1 minute. What they want is just 1 minute of your thoughts. Where do you see longevity going? That type of thing.
Okay.
So I've sent you Rob's info. So go ahead and
Perfect.
reach out to him. And I think you could, that would be going right into World Health Net. So that's going to be a big one.
I love it.
All right.
Well, thank you so much, Michele, for having me.
much.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Oh, well, Jason, I appreciate you. So I just wanted to say in parting that I have been using, your services with my own personal program. And I can tell everyone, I don't usually recommend unless I've done it myself.
Yeah.
So I can highly recommend you, anyone watching, to really go to Jason. I've given your name to a lot of my associates and colleagues.
Good.
So,
thank you.
Your staff is very good and very responsive. So
awesome.
Yeah. So this is a resource for everybody who wants to take advantage, but don't do it without talking to Jason first. Get that 1 hour.
Watch my Instagram, but don't listen to everything without talking too much your own health. Please.
Yeah, no. Go to, because you got to get the personal lifestyle and the labs that are looked at by Jason. I don't know how you do it. You look so good, but I don't know where you sleep because you do so much. But
I don't. It is. I've been taking sleep away from my life, but I just am so passionate.
Yes.
I just want everyone to get access. I just want everyone to get access. I just wish the price can come down because I just want everyone to feel everyone's health should be free, right? This should be universal.
Exactly.
And it's unfair right now the way it's set up, and I just want everyone. That's why I educate. If you can't see me, maybe you got a little tidbit that you can go ask your doctor about that doesn't know it, and maybe they can help you with it.
But Jason, some people don't even know to have a functional medicine doctor. They're still listening to the allopathic, and they've got to then make the transition. So, talking to you is the first step, even if they don't already have a functional medicine provider, they can start taking the baby steps, and then look for that. If they want to have a provider in their neighborhood, so to speak, that's fine, but they can still work with you on the telemedicine side. So you don't, and getting their labs, they can get that. I think you can prescribe them to get to the labs, right?
I do. We do that. We do that now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right. Well, I think they're probably asking me to get off. So, all right. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you.
I'm sure you will, Michele.
Okay. You take care. All right. Bye-bye. Bye.